I wanted to talk about the Michael Jackson biopic. It did well. Did really well.
Did it? I mean, I'm kind of shocked that it did so well because I've heard such terrible things.
I didn't, I think it comes down to, like, a lot of people are bitching and moaning that it didn't really touch down on any of the scandals or anything like that. I was like, that's not what it was. It's like and to bitch about it, it's like, well, you didn't bitch about Bohemian Rhapsody this way, and that thing was all, hey, you're all the best. In fact, the only one they kind of like shit on is the one who died.
Yeah.
Everybody else, Brian May looked real good from that one. He was a producer, so. But it was like soulless. It was just like kind of like, oh, great story. The irony is, Mike Myers plays another record label owner in this one, and it took a second for me to recognize him. I'm like, oh shit, that is Mike Myers. And then I thought, does he play in the same role? He was not. I'm just like, he really enjoys these. No, but it follows. It doesn't even go in depth on anything, and from what I understand, that was from a lot of rewrites they had to do because Diana Ross didn't want to be portrayed in it. I think other people didn't want to be portrayed. Quincy Jones is barely in it.
Whoa.
Yeah, like you see him in glimpses. Barry Gordy, Lorenz Tate played Barry Gordy, was pretty cool. And he had a few lines and such, but again, like Barry Gordy was hugely impactful on the Jackson 5 and such.
I mean, the Motown, baby, Motown, Jackson 5 were born there. That's where Michael cut his teeth, and that's how he got to know Quincy. And then, when he
Jermaine was his son-in-law.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's so like you get that, but then so like it goes from like when they were kids starting out, sort of touches down on some of the things that the All-American Family, the Jacksons, the All-American Family miniseries did, more in depth.
Yeah.
And then it goes into right after Off the Wall, which how do you not cover Off the Wall? Like that story alone. And then through Thriller into like 1985. It was just past the Victory tour with his brothers for the Jackson 5. So there's a lot of, it was not an in-depth biopic. I wouldn't even call it a biographical pick. I would say, if anything, it was like a musical fairy tale.
Musical slice of life about this portion of a dude's life.
If you really love Michael Jackson, I love Michael Jackson's music. I love his videos. I don't know what happened, and I don't want to say anything bad about victims or anything like that. Like, trust victims. But honestly, like, I still like watching this. I didn't feel like, I felt like with what they gave me, which was kind of like, all right, it's nothing amazing, but it was cool to see highlights, like see him dance. Sure. The kid who played him, Jafar Jackson, Jermaine's son, fantastic.
Well, that's great.
Did great work. But yeah, and everybody was fine in it, but it was just like one of those. It was like, check it out, nothing special. I think it did really well, and I want to talk about this a little bit more, but it's because he is a Black icon, and there are not a lot of movies where they cover Black icons.
Sure.
And so, of course, you're going to see the problem is you're going to see a big jump there, like every Black film does. And then the studios are like, we need more biopics.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're not, but not, no. Like, you're not getting it. Like,
I don't think they're going to. I would rather have VH1 movies that rock. If I'm going to have something along those lines, that's what I want to see. And this, honestly, I'm not going to lie, the trailer reminded me exactly of a VH1 movie that rocked. So I kind of just took it and went, okay, that's a movie that for me will probably be no higher than a 7. I mean, the highest one for me is still The Temptations. That was the best. But when you find out that the Temptations movie is just one perspective from one of the Temptations who had a problem with David Ruffin anyway, he's not going to portray him in a good light. So it's always unfair because you have to remember the voice of who's trying to get the story across and that perspective. So I appreciate that Michael gets that. What he did for the music industry and what he did for, at that time, he was the king of pop. There's no doubt about it. He was huge. It was massive. It was a special thing. it's also mired in controversy. And there's so many issues, and it's so much of, well, you know, was he chemically castrated? Did he really hurt these boys? Well, what was his thing? What was it? Was he just a broken human who didn't know how to get himself fixed and to make it right? And, you know, and he crossed lines, but maybe didn't think he was crossing lines. We don't know. And that's the biggest problem with these kind of situations. So if you can remove the artist, separate the artist from the art, more power to you. Enjoy. Absolutely. I love that for you. There's nothing I'm going to bother investing in.
Which I get, and I'm not going to argue that you should watch it. Like you said a 7. I'm like, maybe I like a 2 out of 5. You know, I was like I said, highlights. I liked watching the Thriller video being redone.
Sure.
It's like, you know, there's certain scenes I'm like, yeah, all right, that was fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's fucking. You just got to see Bubbles and you'll fucking burst out laughing. It's like human expressions. It's like weird. Anyway, I hope that if they are going to continue on, though, making musical biopics, like Rocket Man, I think is one of the best examples lately.
Yeah.
Or even like the Greatest Showman is P.T. Barnum.
Yeah.
You know, like where it's really embedded in.
Where it was ridiculous.
Yeah, and like that was a great one.
Alternate universe. It was wonderful.
Oh, and I hope they do Prince at some point, if they're allowed. But it better be a rock opera.
Brother, if they do Prince and it's not a rock opera with like every song, because he was so prolific. If you just take everything he wrote and you just take it by portions of his life and set it up the whole way through, that would be beautiful. That would be utterly perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, like the Springsteen one that came out last year for me.
Yeah.
I was like, I really liked the source material that was based on. It's based on his, you know, the time where he was making Nebraska, but he wrote a book about this.
Yeah.
And the movie was very much based on the book. And that book really helped me through a lot, especially with mental health and dealing with stuff from my past and things. And so when I was watching the movie, I'm like, you guys, you're hitting the wrong notes.
Right. Yeah.
And that's where it hurt me. I'm like, either turn this into a musical like the Rocket Man did, or like you said, the Weird Al, things like that, Greatest Showman, or just a straight drama where the music is secondary in the background.
Right.
But at least get the notes right. Like there were certain scenes where I'm like, I really wish you did this the way the book talks about it, because it would have been so much more impactful.
That's fair. I think Walk the Line was one of the few that kind of nailed that perfect biopic kind of sense to it. I feel like 1 out of every 20 is an absolute banger. It's perfect. But 5 out of 20 are trash and you never need to watch them. You know, because there's nothing that correlates, there's nothing that's entertaining. There's nothing that tells you something that, like, you know, watching their old interviews wouldn't tell you, you know. So it's one of those weird bits for me, whereas the older I get, the more I'm like, well, just watch a documentary. Just watch them. Yeah. The people actually talk about it. Like, these are stars. They're everywhere. You can just watch hours of their old interviews and listen to them and hear the story from them.
That's a great point. And just to piggyback on that, it would be cool if, like, you, like, as a producer, from a producer's perspective, if I'm looking at like a musical biopic, let's say I'm brought in and they're like, okay, make this about the Rolling Stones or whatever, or David Bowie. And so from that angle, that's where I think it should be looked at, which is, okay, am I going to make this like it's a concert show movie, or am I going to make this like it's a documentary movie?
Yeah.
And if you pick documentary, I think it, like I said, the music should become secondary, and you should write for the drama and what's going on, and let us really understand the character that we're getting into in a beautiful way. But if you pick like concert movie, it should be like Rocket Man or Weird, is it like where the music is pushing the entire story along like a good musical should.
Yep, 100%. I couldn't agree more with that, and especially the way that is one thing that I kind of liked, that I wish Queen had done more of, was that perspective of they're getting ready to go do Live Aid, and like the lead up, if we are flashing back to them leading up into that Live Aid moment, I think that could have been a fantastic way to do it, because then you show them doing their show with that song, like, you know, let's say Midnight Train, and, you know, from way back when, from their first album, and you see the young kids coming out of the club and what it was like for them. And then, you know, each time is their on stage experiences. I've always thought that would be a really cool way to do one. I thought Aerosmith, like doing something like that with Aerosmith, could have been radical.
Yeah.
You know, I would love to see something like that. Kind of how Toys in the Attic kind of grew and how they grew as a band and then separated for a little bit and then didn't make jack squat. And then all of a sudden, you know, Get a Grip comes out and it's the biggest freaking thing of the 90s. You know, it explodes. 1991 is like, what the hell do we do with this? You know,
they really were like that 90s run. Damn.
Oh, gosh. I mean, and then you get Pink, which might be one of the worst songs ever, but it's stuck in your head. Everyone knows Pink.
Everyone knows Pink.
Everyone knows Pink.
Everyone fell in love with Liv Tyler and Alicia Silverstone.
Absolutely. They taught us what being driven crazy was and why you would wind up crying. Like 2 very important lessons in life.
Crying because I met you.